Hello and welcome everyone. Today I have Krista Sobieski, author of Giving Into Hope, and we are going to be lighting the torch, celebrating her release of her new book today. And I'm just going to get you to introduce yourself, Krista, to the viewers here.
Awesome. Well, Ashley, I'm really excited to be here today. This book has been a long time coming. Giving into hope has been something that I have wanted to do for a long time. Naturally, I've always been a writer. I've always enjoyed writing. Some people always thought of it as a chore. I always enjoyed it. And, journaling and writing is just something that, has always been on my mind and something that I wanted to do. And, about 7 years ago, I had just a lot of challenges, a lot of things that happened in my life that really probably inspired this book. But I would say that it really, for me, started, with journaling and developing into this book. But just a little bit about myself. So my name is Krista Sobieski, and I live in central Wisconsin, specifically a small community named Berlin. And I've lived here pretty much my whole life. I'm married. My husband and I have 4 children together. And as they're getting older, I'm finding more time, to do some of the things that I enjoy doing, including writing. And this book was just something, again, that, kind of came out of hardship and challenges, but I was inspired, I think, by other authors and speakers that I had met previously. And, I was always one that would just hold on when I would go to a conference or a convention, and, they'd have keynote speakers or they would have authors that were sharing. It was just something that always inspired me. And there were just a few specific people that I, remember being at conferences and just hearing them talk about their books and how they shared their story. And, I did work for a small newspaper for a short time, and I really believe that everybody has a right to share their story, and everybody has a story to be shared. And like me, that was something that I wanted to be able to do is share my story. And the result is this book, Giving Into Hope.
I absolutely love that. And you're absolutely right. Like there's so much magic that happens when you put that pen to the paper and just really sharing your story and putting your message out. And I know you shared a little bit about inspiration, but I want you to share more about your book, what readers can find more, like the topics, what it's all about. But again, like what inspired you, your personal experiences that made you write about giving into hope?
Well, first, I'll start. So we'll just say 7 years ago, rather than getting into specific dates, but I actually lost my parents. So my mom, Margin Minsky, passed away in 2017. And my story is a little unique in the sense that my mom had breast cancer and had breast cancer in 2011. And then they told her it was, really a minor case of breast cancer, that, things would be okay. Well, in 2016, that breast cancer came back, and it came back with a vengeance, and she had metastatic breast cancer that spread quite rapidly and quite quickly. And, it was very quick that we found out that, even though she agreed to try to fight that cancer, that it really was terminal and it was late stage, and there wasn't a lot that they could do for her. And, I still firmly believe that, so that would have been in August of 2016, late August, September, that she was diagnosed. And by February of 2017, she passed away. So it was a really short time, and it, spread really quickly. But where my story gets extremely unique, and not knowing how sick he was, my father, we've later found out, actually ended up having some issues with his heart, and was expected to see a cardiologist, unknown to us. But my father actually ended up, so my mom passed away on February 2nd. And 3 hours after, my dad had a heart attack, and he died too. So within 3 hours, I lost both of my parents. And at that time, it seemed really unreal. And again, at the time, my dad was completely unexpected. Although he had, some health issues over the years, it wasn't anything at that time that we thought he would pass away from. I mean, he was up and active and very capable of caring for himself. So it wasn't anything expected, I guess, at that moment. So that was really a big part of the inspiration behind this book is, going through that grief. But there's also a twist, and this will be I guess news to a lot of people, including a lot of people, close friends and family, because so many people didn't know the other part of what I was going through. A lot of people thought that I was just grieving the loss of my parents, which was huge, but I was also part of a huge business setback. I was involved in an organization where I suddenly became the target to pay back funds involving the IRS and the Department of Revenue, which was super scary. None of it was mine, but I was kind of in this silent battle that I had to fight and challenge, and really to protect my husband and my children. I wasn't allowed, in a sense, to share that. I was advised to keep it quiet. I only confided in a couple of people who could help me, including, an attorney, a couple of people who were involved in the situation that were helping, to fight with me. So I essentially left a career that I loved, even though I do think deep in my heart, my time was coming to a close in that career regardless. I was kind of forced. I mean, I was basically told, go turn in your keys and say goodbye, and don't turn around and look back, because now it's time to protect you and your family from having to pay back, I'll just say hundreds of thousands of dollars. That wasn't my debt. So it was really, again, grieving my parents, grieving a career I loved, grieving from not being able to really share with my colleagues and my friends at work what had happened. And I think a lot of people thought I was turning my back on them and didn't understand, or they thought that I had done something wrong, when in reality I didn't. So it really I felt like tarnished my reputation and who I was. And it was really hard, because I like to be a person of integrity, and I didn't feel like I could authentically be myself because I couldn't share. And part of that was, kind of protecting myself and my family. So I was grieving all this loss, all these things, not just because of death, but everything I had known had just changed in that short time. And it, not only grieving my parents, but it took over 5 years to settle a case. And it was a silent, secretive, there was no one I could share with, because they advised me to protect myself and my family from this debt. I needed to keep it silent. So now, in giving into hope, it's my story told, and it's what I knew, what I felt, what I went through, and how during that 7-year period, I really did just put everything into hope, and I gave it into hope and into my faith, and believed that I would come out on top and everything would be okay. And it is. I mean, but now this is my chance to tell my story and what happened and what it was like going through all of that grief, and how you hold on to hope to get through it.
I love that. Hope is such a big keyword takeaway, is having that hope, that belief in the midst of the challenges, struggles, and especially what you were going through, it being alone in it too, right? So kudos to you for being able to take this and putting it into your story, to letting other people to resonate with this, to relate to this. And my next question that I have, and we touched about like how your book theme touches about the loss, the resilience, and finding the light in darkness. But could you elaborate on how you navigated these emotions while writing, and what hope you have for readers that will take away from your story?
Well, first I'll just say, like, I think, going through this, and when I was on one of the She Rises studios recently, we were just talking about this, and it was in one of the groups, but one of the breakout, I think, I wanted to sipping coffee with maybe with one of the other ladies, but we were talking about how you get through hard times, or how you get through challenges, or deal with stress. And, going through this, one of the things that I really did, and these are really simple, really kind of probably silly things, but when you're going through really deep, challenging stuff, like, I would just first, let me say this, like, and this will be touched on in my story, but like, for me, people will say, how did you get through? Or like the few people that kind of know now what has happened, even just with the grief. But I just threw myself into my kids. Everything that my 4 kids, my kids are very active kids. So like I would just, not that I wouldn't have been involved, but I think that's what kept me going. Like the things that they were involved in and what they were doing, and you know, just knowing how hard my husband works and the beautiful family that we have, and just wanting to come out on the other side and see the light again was just what really helped me. And really a couple of very close friends and mentors who, you know, kind of knew my story and were always there for me. So I'm really grateful to them. But I would do like silly little things. So like in one of the groups I was sharing how, you know, like just simple stress relief, like some days I would just get really down and depressed about everything that was happening. So like it's something as simple as, you know, we have 1,000 passwords on our computers to get into all these different things. So like I would change my passwords to say something like, you are beautiful. So every time I had to log into my computer, I was telling myself, you are beautiful, or I would change it to something that would inspire me. I signed up like for, like either one was like a daily Bible verse and one was like a daily inspiration or a daily OM, you know, just a message. So I would get that every morning, either by text or I would get it by email. And I would just hold on to those like all day long. Like I would think, okay, here's this, you know, this quote today, and it's telling me, you know, that the light's going to shine brighter for tomorrow. And I'm like, that's my sign. Things are going to get better. And, you know, I'm going to get through this. And like with the case that I was dealing with, you know, there were so many challenges because, you know, dealing with the federal government, there was shutdowns because of COVID, and then someone retired. So like my case took like 5 years to settle, and I couldn't talk about it, you know. So even when it was like, when it became victorious, like I knew that I wasn't going to be held liable for some of the things that happened. I really didn't have anyone to share with. I mean, my husband didn't even know the full details of any of it. So it was like hard because in some ways I felt like I was being so deceitful, but it wasn't intentional. It was really just to protect my family and myself. So, you know, this book is really inspired out of, you know, I say trauma because it took me a long time even, you know, to get help, but I never really thought about trauma. I always think of trauma as like accident trauma or someone who was abused in a certain way, you know, and effects of trauma. And it wasn't until I went through kind of the grief and the type of grief and the things that I went through that really you know, I did experience my own trauma as well. And when I think about this book, first I'd like to say, you know, people will say, well, why did you have to write that? Or why did you share that? And part of it is for me. It's because I write for me because I needed to heal and I needed to be free of the story and not just, you know, the death of my parents. I mean, everyone goes through, you know, different situations and things that are hurtful and hard, but how do we overcome them? How do we go through them? You know, death is one thing, it's final and we can't change it. So we have to, I mean, I couldn't change it. Yeah, it was awful. Like I'm still very sad that they died on the same day, but yet I started to needed to look at the positive of that. And, you know, how miserable my dad would have been without my mom. So that's another side of it. Like when you start to look at the light of, okay, what's the blessing behind this? Like, it's not, that piece isn't about me. Maybe that's the way it was just meant to be because, you know, whatever. I mean, I'm a pretty faithful person. So God knew my mom and dad, my dad couldn't be without my mom. So in my mind, that's how I think about that. And as far as the situation, you know, going through something like that with a legal battle where, you know, you're protecting yourself and again, you know, your reputation is kind of on the line. People don't know really what's happening and you can't share. I just hope that this book, again, I wrote it for me because it's part of my healing process and now I can finally share. Yet on the opposite end, I hope that when readers read it, you know, they will just find the inspiration to go on one more day because there's so many days that I just wanted to stay in bed buried. And didn't really think, what do I really have to offer? Like, how could I not see these things happening? How, how did, I think of my parents, like, how did I not know my dad wasn't as sick as he was? How did we not know this? Like, how did I not see that? Like, how did I not know? Like, when I found my dad, why didn't I do CPR quicker? Why didn't I do these things? And I learned, in time that there were things that I couldn't control. Same thing with the organization and all the things that happened. I couldn't help it that we had an accountant who created a mess and didn't do his job. That I can't change, but it took me a long time to let go of the blame of the things I couldn't change because I held them so close to my heart. And like, how did I not see this? I'm a smart person. How could I be so naive? How did I not know my dad wasn't that sick? How did we overlook that? How did I, not see that the accountant wasn't doing the job appropriately? How did we overlook that? How come I didn't get more involved in the financials at that point? Like, I blamed myself. So I hope this book, will help others, look beyond the challenges and, look at the blessings that come out of them, but really give them hope, right? That's what it is. I mean, and I just finally one day said, I have this beautiful family. I have these 4 beautiful kids. I have a husband who is amazing. We share a beautiful life. We have a beautiful home. And there's so many reasons, to hold on to hope. And I will come out. And, I always say in the end, I mean, what happens, happens. And I couldn't change what was happening to me. So just had to push through it. And I hope that's what readers, when they read this, it's a fairly short read. And I kept thinking this book maybe should be longer because people will say, oh, it's not a really long book. But it doesn't need to be a long book if it has the impact to help someone. And if it helps one person, that's okay because it's already helped heal me, right? It's giving into hope has helped heal me. And if it makes a difference in the life of one other person, I mean, then it'll make a difference. And then it was worth it. And it already was worth it because it was worth it to me.
I love that. I love everything that you said. And it's true. Writing has its own healing techniques with it, right? It's like you're writing your book, the chapter, and then you close that book and it's like a chapter behind and now you start fresh kind of thing. So I absolutely, completely agree with that. And I love everything that you shared and giving the hope because again, hope and faith and belief, those are strong things that we need to have because there's things we can't control. Things are going to happen. And honestly, I cannot wait to read your book and dive in because I know there's going to be a lot of great gold nuggets in there. Is there something that you want to share with the audience before we close up?
I hope that when they read this book, I hope it touches them in a positive way that really can help them. And even if, they're not going through challenges, I hope what it does is it opens their eyes to understand that we don't always know what other people are going through. Now, I was on the top of my game in a career that I loved. Again, had a beautiful family, didn't have a lot of things to struggle in life. I mean, I've been very blessed and I'm very, very grateful for that. And I feel like I've always been a hard worker. So people really had no clue, people closest to me had no clue. People didn't know what was going on. So I hope that if anything, when they read my story and when they think about it, they will just have more empathy to understand that other people, even the people who, we think are on the top of their game and have everything right going for them, like people probably thought I did. You don't know what they're going through. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a journey. And like in this case, a beautiful foundation blossomed out of the death of my parents. So like if something bad or something good had to come out of something bad, it does and it will, but you have to be open-minded to that. And I hope that, readers will read it for that reason. And, when they get done, if it can't personally help them, I hope it just opens their eyes to be open-minded, to listen to how other people think and how other people go through things, and just be open-minded to that. So, when you see someone that maybe is having a bad day, or, the person that's on top of their game, but yet they're silent at certain moments, I mean, just realize that everyone's on a journey and everyone has a story. And, I, I find that today, I don't know if you know this, but today's World Kindness Day. And today's World Kindness Day. So I just find that that's ironic. We created this foundation, Unimaginable Hope, that does random acts of kindness. And I'm just talking about that because that's touched on in the story too. And when I found out today was going to be the day, of my Light the Torch ceremony, just exciting because I'm like, this is World Kindness Day. And I think, if anything, if Giving into Hope does anything, I hope it encourages people to be a little bit kinder, a little bit more sensitive, and to have empathy for everyone. We may not like everyone, we may not get along, even the people that I feel that could have helped me, that wronged me over the last 7 years, or the people that maybe I feel like hurt me. I still have empathy for them. That doesn't mean that I completely forget what they did or didn't do to help me. I've probably forgiven them, but I won't forget what happened. But I still have empathy to understand that I feel like the reason probably most of them turned their back or walked away is because they were scared. So it takes really courageous, brave people to be there to support people when they're going through the hard times. And I will tell you, when you go through a situation like I did, you will find out very quickly who your people are. And in my case, a lot of people couldn't know because I wasn't sharing, so they really didn't. So there was no way for them to help me if they didn't know. But I hope in the end, on the flip side, when they read Giving into Hope, or when they think of me or my story and my journey, that it will just give them the courage to have a little bit more empathy for the person next to them, or the person walking next to them, or to understand that, maybe when someone is having a bad day, or we're not understanding why they're quiet one day, that, they probably are fighting something personal, that they can't share, or they're not ready to share, and just understand that and give them a little bit of grace.
I love that. And it is amazing. Like you were sharing too, today, World Kindness Day.
I know. It's so exciting.
This is
so
perfect.
exciting. I just love that it fell on this day. And, I think too, I think back to my parents, and it'll touch on in the story, but, when we created our foundation based off of kindness, it really came out of, when my parents passed away, we had their funeral together, and, we heard so many stories, and I love to share this because it allows me to talk a little bit about them and remember them. And the book will touch a little bit more on it, but I knew that my parents were good people. Don't get me wrong. They were good people. They were good neighbors, good parents, had good friends. And I knew that, but it's not until, I guess in my case, when someone really close to you passes away, you hear stories, and hopefully you do, or, I did, but I would have people, whether it was at the funeral or people sending us cards, or just when we would randomly run into people, they would share, like, oh, I worked with your mom and she did this, or my mom was very talented. Like she could sew, she could preserve food. Like she was big into gardening. So like I always say, and it's in my book, like she was like the master of all things. Like she could do anything. If it needed to be done, my mom would just take care of it. She was a fix-it. I mean, no need to wait for anyone. She would just handle things. And very outgoing, loved life. My dad was the complete opposite. I mean, he was very capable, very strong-willed in his own way, but not very social. So when people would tell me, like, probably more with my dad, but they would say, oh, your dad did this for us. I'd say, my dad, really? Like he did that. So when we created our foundation, part of that was carrying on that legacy, because one of the things that I learned was, and that's one of the things that really kept me going over that 7-year period to kind of go through everything, is I just threw myself into something which became Unimaginable Hope, the foundation of helping other people, because I just had learned what an impact my parents had made in other people's lives. And it wasn't like today's World Kindness Day, and it wasn't about them doing big things or donating big amounts of money. It was about the little things that they did that impacted people's lives every single day, whether, that was my mom sewing Halloween costumes for her coworkers' kids, or making, treats for something that they needed because they didn't have time to cook. I heard stories of my dad going on a rainy night to help a coworker with a flat tire because her husband was gone, and, she didn't know who else to call, and my dad helped her. So it's just all those little things that they did to make such a big difference. And, we really, if anything, that's what we can do. So like for me, just holding on to those stories and those things that my parents did to help others, and then turning it in to a foundation that would carry on that legacy and tradition of helping others and doing, kind things to help people, really became my lifeline. And I will tell you what happened, and it's anyone who does service work or does any kind of charity work. And it really did happen. But, and not that everything that we do in our foundation is necessarily about helping people going through tragedy or trauma or things like that, because we do just a lot of random kind of things as well. But one of the things I learned is, or one of the things that really helped me with that, is when we started helping other people and I would meet with people to hear their stories. Like we do a project called Tennies for Teen, where we help get quality shoes on teenagers. And when I would meet with teenagers to get shoes, and I would hear their stories of never, ever, ever having a brand new pair of shoes in their entire life, and how grateful they were just to get a brand new pair of tennis shoes, how healing that was. Like, who was I to feel sad and ungrateful? I mean, I had my parents for 40 some years of my life. All of my kids got to know them. They got to know all their grandchildren. I mean, my sisters and I, have lots of great memories. And here are kids that are teenagers going through struggles greater than I could ever even imagine at that age. Yes, loss is hard, death is hard, grief is hard, yet how we turn it around and turn it into something positive. And that's a little bit about what giving into hope is about too, is, how do you take all those challenges and how do you take those negative things and how do you learn from other people? And, through our foundation, the stories that I hear and, the people's lives that we touch, when I hear their story, it just reminds me everyone has a different journey. Everyone has a different story. And how we perceive that, how we move forward from, our own challenges, and how we, get up when we've been knocked down, is really what makes us incredible humans. And how we connect with each other and how we learn from each other is really, how we should go about the world. And if we all had a little bit more, human compassion and kindness, I mean, I think the world would be a better place. And I hope this book captures that, because it captures the struggles that I went through. And it really shows how we turned, or how I tried to turn them around, into something positive. And I hope other people can learn from that and use that as inspiration. And that's what my intent is I hope it inspires them, just to live better, believe in themselves a little bit more, not second guess themselves, and really let go of the fear. Because I think that's, even this book, it took me 5 years to find a publisher. I'll have you know too, like it, till I found She Rises. And I always tell them that when I'm in meetings, like 5 years, I scoped out different companies, different people, and I just never connected. So, I mean, this book had been journaled. Like I would just stay up writing, or I would just type. I had a journaling mentor once, the late Chris Clark Epstein, who actually I took a writing class from. She passed away a couple of years ago, but I was in a class, and one time she just said, honey, just keep writing, because you don't ever know what it's going to turn into, but write something every day. I don't care if it's 5 words, 5 sentences or 5 pages, just write, because you never know. And this is a result of that encouragement from her, was just keep writing, because you never know what it can turn into. And, it became a book. And like, for me, this is just a dream come true. So I could not be more grateful, to She Rises Studio and In my mom's own words, when she was really sick, one of the things, she would always say is, and I touch on this in the book too, but my mom had a saying, and especially when she found out she was very sick, she would always say, "You live to die, honey, you live to die." And it's true. We all live to die, but don't die before you really have had a chance to live, right? So, I really hold on to those words now. And when I thought about writing this book, and, I was in a group meeting a couple of weeks ago, and one of the people in that meeting said, "But I don't know if anyone will read my book. Like, I don't know, now that I'm actually writing it," she said, "I don't know if they're going to read it." And, my answer was, "But who did you write it for yourself, or to some, for yourself first, I hope." But the second thing I would say about that is, someone else will, learn from it. And, we all do live to die. So, by sharing my story in my book, I just hope it encourages others, and, gives them the light that they need. And like for me, and other books that I read, and, those quotes, and, those daily meditations that would come to my email, or just typing, positive things in as my passwords to remind me, because how we self-talk is, how we go on, right? So just, doing all those little things, just reminded me, like, life is really what we make it. And we really do live to die, but let's not die before we really live. So yeah, none of us know how much time we have. So, I just finally, like I said, giving into hope, right? I gave into hope, and came out on the other side, and now it's a book. And it's an incredible feeling to finally say I'm officially an author, especially because I do love writing. For all the people who it's a challenge and they want to write a book, but they're not sure. I can have empathy and sympathize, but for me, that's not a challenge. And I'm really excited too, because not only this, but, giving into hope, this book has opened up. I'm part of 3 other anthologies, which you might probably don't know, or you do know, but I am part of the Voices of 100 Women. So I'm working on that. I have a chapter in that book, and then my unforgettable personal stories, and She Defies. So I'm really excited. So look at all it's opened. Like, for someone who loves to write, this book has just opened so many doors. And, I don't know where it's going to take or where it's going to lead me, but I'm just grateful that I have the opportunity, and I'm grateful that I found She Rises Studios and this community, to grow in and share in, because we all have a story. We all deserve to share it. And what readers take away from it is really up to them. But I certainly hope that it, affects them in a positive way, to help them in their personal lives, or help someone else going through a challenge, and just be kinder people.
I love that. I love that. I took in so much that you were saying. I can listen to you speak all day. Everything that you're saying is so wonderful. And, you're leaving this legacy behind, even like for your parents, right?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
kindness and everything. And I don't, honestly, today is no coincidence.
You're probably right? You're right. Everything truly does happen. Everything happens for a reason. And now I'll get kind of emotional. I'm going to try not to. It really does. And I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I don't know why my parents. I don't know why my mom had to be sick with cancer. I don't know why my dad had to die the same day, and I don't know why. I had to go through the challenges I had to go through. Yet I do know, that I have 4 kids who are amazing kids doing great things, who I'm super proud of. I have a husband that works endlessly to provide for us, works 2 jobs. He's worked for one job for over 30 years, and he's, been a lifelong farmer. And I know that that's part of him and always will be. And, just have incredible family and friends and people around us. And sometimes we take those things for granted, right? And I don't know why the bad things had to happen. I do not know. Yet, for some reason, I believe, maybe those bad things had to happen to me so that I could share my story to help someone else. And in my heart, that's probably where I lean now is, hopefully what I what I am doing and what I'm sharing will impact someone else in a way that will inspire them just to be a little bit better or be a little bit kinder. And you're right, I had to lose my parents, but that doesn't mean, the morals and values that they taught me as a young child growing up, and the kind of people that I knew they were. And I even learned how much greater they were by all the stories after their deaths. This is for them. And this is, for everyone, I guess, who's been in my world, or excuse me, everyone who, has just loved me and supported me and believed in me. I guess this is for them too. This is, when we work hard and we put our mind and we just, let go of the fear, look at what we can do. And I think the biggest thing about writing a book is the fear of judgment, right? We're always so fearful. And now it's out there, right? I mean, the ebook's out there today. The paperback, I think, is going to be released on May 28th or around there. And I was really nervous. Like yesterday, I was really nervous. Today, this morning, I was a little bit on edge, but it doesn't matter. It's my story. It is what it is. It's told in my words. And, it's a memoir of approximately that 7-year period of life. And, what people take away is what they take away. And I guess if they want to judge in a negative way, I'm just beyond that now. It is what it is, and we can't change our stories. We can only share what we feel is important to help other people. And again, that's what I hope that's what this book does. And it's out there. It's free. Now all the things that were hidden, all those feelings, all those emotions, how silly. I mean, my parents died on the same day. And I will tell you that the first counselor, I went to therapy, and she talked to me about gambling. And I'm like, I don't have a gambling addiction. My parents died, and I'm going through this really awful time. And so I left feeling like a counselor or a therapist couldn't help me. And it took me 6 years, Ashley, 6 years to go back and ask for help. And I share that in the story. So if anything, if someone's going through a challenging time, I hope they don't wait 6 years. Or I hope if the first person that they go to and they're turned off, or they don't connect with that person, I hope that they will go to someone else. And maybe by me sharing my story and saying, the first person I went to, I didn't connect to. And I tried to tell her, I'm really sorry that people have gambling problems, but I don't have a gambling problem. This is my story, and this is what I need help with. And she wasn't really helping me. So I went back a second time. I was like, I don't think I'm in the right spot. So then I just never went back. And it took me that long, and that, it took me a long time to get the courage to go back and talk to someone else about everything else going on. And I mean, because I couldn't share a lot of my story, I mean, the grief part I could, but some of the other stuff I couldn't, I felt really lost. So again, maybe giving into hope, someone else will read that and they'll say, I don't want to wait 6 years, or I don't want to wait 6 months. I'll just try someone different because that person didn't work for me. And, and this is really, I'm going to share another little thing. So, the name of this is, the Light the Torch ceremony. So when this invitation came through, and when Hannah had sent it over, I just, I was part of a group for a long time in my previous career. And we would do gatherings and host conferences and work together in the education sector. And Light the Flame was always our theme. Like, we had books engraved with that similar little torch emblem. So like when you say everything happens for a reason, like it's just all these symbols like that, even before the bad stuff happened, that just keep. So when I seen the light, like I had to double check to make sure it was from Hannah, because I'm like, that's really what they call it. Like all these things from the past come up, but like, right, just how everything happens for a reason and everything aligns. It's really incredible. And it's just a really incredible feeling, to be a new author and to say, yeah, I wrote a book, and there's 3 more that I'm going to be part of. And, maybe there will be more solo books in the future. We'll see how this one goes, and we'll just take it one step at a time, and what happens will, but it's just an incredible feeling.
I love it. I so love it. And thank you so much for sharing everything with us and your journey. Your journey and your story is your story. And it's true, we all have a story. We have something that we sometimes don't even know why
Mhm.
it's happening or what, but it's leaning onto something, that belief, that hope, having it and let that seed like expand, and someone getting their hands onto your book is going to change their lives. I can guarantee. I'm excited to read it. You can never say the wrong thing to someone, right? There's always
Mhm.
something, a message there somewhere. So I'm so excited for you.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm just really honored, really grateful to She Rises Studio. Just for helping with the process and making it become real, just being there every step of the way, encouraging. Again, like I said, for me, the writing part wasn't the hard part. It was probably just some more of the logistics and, even now, like getting the landing page ready for my website for book sales for when the paperback comes, just doing some of those kinds of things. But already there were some challenges I was having this morning. And actually, right before I came on live, I'm already getting messages how they're, working on helping me correct that or getting in to figure that out. So I think that's the other thing that I would just like to say too, working with this publishing company has been, amazing as well. And they make the dreams become reality. And I think it's another, another encouragement, I guess, for anyone out there who is thinking about writing their own book or wanting to do that. I, did become an affiliate with the company. I had actually one person just recently signed up to write her own solo book. So I'm really happy and excited for her. But, we all have something to share. And again, not everyone wants to put that in book format. Not everyone, wants to go to that extent or do that. And and it's not just about writing a memoir type book or a nonfiction book like my book is, but for the people who love to write fiction or any children's books, now just do it. It's such an incredible feeling, and I love that the studio works with all of those platforms. And I just look forward to the future. What else? What else can I do? I love to write. I've done some professional writing and some ghost writing for others, and who knows where that will lead to. But it's just having this opportunity to do my own writing, I think, is what's really been incredible, and share my story. But I think it will lead into more in the future, but we'll see. It's just an exciting thing. So I hope others, if anything, maybe they don't even read the book, but they want to write a book, then I hope that they reach out to me or reach out to She Rises Studio, and just know that you have this incredible opportunity to share, to share your gifts through writing, whatever platform of writing that or genre of writing that might be. But don't hold off and not do it, because again, you live to die and you don't know what tomorrow brings. So if anything, my kids will have to live with this forever. My book, will be out there. So, I hope that's a positive thing for them in the future too. But, your story again, and my story, this will just be part of my legacy and, my remembrance, and knowing, how those 7 years impacted me, but only that, but how I look forward now, how do I live different? What do I do different? And, what will I do different in the future, is really what comes out at the end of this book too. And hopefully it's just, advice that other people, hopefully can learn from or be guided by. And that's really, again, the goal, I think, for me to actually finish it and have it published, was for my own heart and to heal, to be able to really have a platform to share what had happened to me and how it felt to go through some of the things I went through. Yet on the flip side, I just thought, maybe my story, like the other stories that I've heard, the people whose books, inspired me in my past, hopefully this book will do that for those, other people too. And that's my hope. So it's just amazing. I mean, doesn't feel real yet. I think until I see the actual copy in my hands, maybe then, which that'll come soon, right? That'll come soon. But just seeing my name on the front of a book is an incredible feeling, and knowing what's in there and that it came from my heart and it's my authentic story of what happened to me is just really humbling. And I hope readers get something positive out of it.
And make sure to grab your copy. The ebook is out. The links will be provided. And when the paperback is out, get your copy too. Have it in your hands.
Yes.
Have a tea and relax and take out some gold nuggets and implement it into your life. So thank you so much, Krista. It was so wonderful chatting with you. Congratulations again. I'm so excited for you. And goodbye, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you for this opportunity. And thanks for everyone for helping. Very exciting.
Congratulations again.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.